Why belly fat is so stubborn, and what actually helps. You can eat better, you can exercise regularly, you can try your best, and still feel like your belly fat refuses to budge. This experience is extremely common. This is why people think there is something wrong with their bodies, but in most cases, that's not true. The issue is not a broken metabolism or a lack of discipline. It's usually a misunderstanding of how fat loss actually works and which factors matter most. Let's be clear from the start. There is no single trick, hormone hack, or morning routine that guarantees fat loss for everyone. Sustainable weight loss follows a well-established scientific foundation, a consistent calorie deficit supported by regular physical activity, sufficient protein intake, quality sleep, and long-term adherence. That principle doesn't change. However, how easily you maintain that calorie deficit and how your body responds to it can be influenced by stress, hormones, and daily habits. These factors do not override physics, but they can make the process feel significantly easier or harder. This video is about understanding that balance. We're going to look at how your body's internal chemistry works so you can stop fighting against your biology and start working with it. What makes visceral belly fat different? Not all fat behaves the same way. Subcutaneous fat sits just under the skin. It is relatively inert and primarily serves as energy storage. You can think of this as the safe storage that your body uses for long-term reserves. Visceral fat, on the other hand, is stored deep inside the abdomen, surrounding organs such as the liver, pancreas, and intestines. Because of this settlement, visceral fat is considered more dangerous than subcutaneous. From a medical perspective, visceral fat is more concerning because it is metabolically active. Unlike the fat under your skin, visceral fat acts like a secret gland, constantly pumping out chemicals that can cause low-grade inflammation throughout your entire system. It releases inflammatory molecules, and it is associated with insulin resistance, cardiovascular disease, type 2 diabetes, and fatty liver disease. Because this fat is located so close to your portal vein, the main blood highway to your liver, it can dump fatty acids directly into your internal organs, which is why it impacts your health so much faster than other types of fat. Reducing visceral fat improves metabolic health, even if there is no significant change in total body weight. Importantly, research consistently shows that exercise plays a critical role in reducing visceral fat, often more so than diet alone. Aerobic activity, resistance training, and higher overall movement levels are all strongly associated with visceral fat reduction. This is because physical activity triggers the release of adrenaline, which is like a key that specifically fits the stubborn locks on visceral fat cells, forcing them to release their stored energy. Nutrition matters too. A calorie deficit remains essential, but visceral fat tends to respond particularly well to physical activity. The role of hormones and stress. Hormones are frequently blamed for stubborn fat, especially cortisol. Although this topic is often exaggerated online, stress physiology plays an important and supportive role in fat regulation. While cortisol gets a bad reputation, it's actually meant to be a helpful messenger that tells your body how to manage its energy resources during a crisis. When the body experiences chronic stress, such as psychological, physical, or sleep-related, the nervous system may shift into stress response mode, also known as the fight or flight response. This response is designed to help you survive immediate threats. When this happens, your body essentially puts your fat-burning goals on the back burner because it thinks you are in a life or death situation. In fight or flight mode, cortisol and adrenaline increase. Heart rate rises, blood sugar becomes more available, energy is prioritized for short-term survival. From an evolutionary side, this state encourages the body to conserve energy reserves, including fat. If stress levels remain high for a long time, fat loss can become more difficult. Biologically, your body views belly fat as its most convenient emergency fund. because it wants to keep that energy nearby in case the perceived threat continues. This doesn't mean stress causes weight gain by itself. This means that uncontrolled stress can negatively impact appetite regulation, sleep quality, post-exercise recovery, and calorie deficit management. To get rid of these negative effects, I recommend watching the video until the end. The morning window. Some people talk about a critical morning window that determines fat loss for the entire day. That framing is misleading. From a biological side, your metabolism doesn't have an on or off switch that resets every morning. It is a continuous 24-hour process of managing energy. What mornings actually represent is a behavioral leverage point. Early habits can influence stress levels, energy, and decision making later in the day. They don't override calories or exercise, but they can support consistency. Your body naturally produces a certain amount of cortisol shortly after waking up, and how you manage your environment during this time can determine whether your stress levels remain healthy or become too high. For example, starting the day in a highly reactive state, rushing, overstimulated, underslept, may push the nervous system toward fight or flight mode. When this happens repeatedly, the body spends more time in a state that favors energy conservation. If these cycles weren't repeated so frequently, our body would naturally enter a resting mode. Instead, when your nervous system is stuck in this high alert mode, it signals to your cells that it's time to protect your fat stores rather than mobilize them for fuel. That doesn't lock fat in permanently, but it can make appetite control harder and fatigue more noticeable. Hydration and stimulation. After sleep, mild dehydration is common. When you are dehydrated, your blood becomes slightly more viscous or thicker, which makes your heart work harder to circulate oxygen and can actually trigger a small, unnecessary stress response in your body. Rehydrating in the morning supports cardiovascular function and may reduce that unnecessary physiological stress. Caffeine timing is another factor. Consuming caffeine immediately upon waking is not harmful for most people, but delaying it may help some individuals avoid energy crashes later in the day. This is not mandatory, and individual tolerance varies widely. These strategies should be viewed as optional tools, not requirements. Small optimizations that make the primary goal of a calorie deficit feel much more manageable by keeping your energy levels stable. Light exposure and movement. Exposure to natural daylight in the morning helps regulate circadian rhythms, which influence sleep quality and energy levels. Better sleep supports recovery, appetite regulation, and training performance. Early morning light triggers the production of serotonin, the precursor to melatonin. And if you don't get this light signal early on, your brain may struggle to release the hormones you need for deep, fat-burning sleep later that night. Similarly, light movement, such as walking, can reduce stress and improve mood. This does not replace structured exercise, but it may complement it. From a medical side, even a short walk may help you to clear excess glucose from your bloodstream and lower your heart rate, signaling to your nervous system that it's safe to exit stress mode and start burning fat for fuel. Again, these habits support the process. They do not replace the fundamentals. What actually triggers fat loss? Calorie deficit. A sustained calorie deficit is required for fat loss. This is the law of thermodynamics that allows your body to finally start tapping into its internal energy stores. Exercise. Exercise is essential for reducing visceral fat and improving health. Physically moving your body increases blood flow specifically to the abdominal area, making it easier for those stubborn fat cells to be mobilized. Resistance training. It preserves muscle mass during weight loss. Maintaining muscle is vital because muscle tissue is more metabolically active than fat, meaning it helps you burn more energy even when you are at rest. Aerobic activity. It is particularly effective for visceral fat reduction. Studies show that cardio helps lower systemic inflammation, which is often the biggest barrier to losing weight in the midsection. Sleep and stress management. They improve adherence and recovery. Consistent rest ensures that your hormones, like insulin and cortisol, stay at healthy levels so your body doesn't fight against your efforts. Why do many people feel stuck? Many people fail not because they lack effort, but because they try to rely on extremes. Severe calorie restriction, excessive training, ignoring recovery, chasing quick fixes. These approaches often increase stress, reduce consistency, and eventually backfire. As an example, when you drop calories too low, your body may trigger a process called adaptive thermogenesis, where your thyroid hormones and metabolic rate slow down to protect you from what it perceives as a famine. A more effective strategy is to aim for moderate, repeatable habits that you can maintain for months, not days. If you want to reduce belly fat, focus first on your total calorie intake. Prioritize regular physical activity. Include both cardio and resistance training. Support sleep and stress management. Be patient with the process. This combination is the most effective way to make it much easier for your body to access and burn the fat stored deep in your abdomen. Fat loss is not linear. Plateaus happen. Progress often shows up in health markers before the mirror. Don't forget, every person has a unique medical history and genetic makeup, and what works for one individual's endocrine system may need to be adjusted for another to ensure long-term safety. Your body is not stubborn. It is adaptive. In medicine, we call this homeostasis. Your body's constant effort to keep your internal environment stable and safe. When you understand the system such as calories deficit, movement, recovery, and stress, you stop fighting your biology and start working with it. With the combination of your habits and your natural rhythms, you shift your body from a state of energy conservation to a state of metabolic efficiency. That is where sustainable fat loss actually begins. If you want more science-based explanations like this, subscribe and keep learning how your body really works.